Ever noticed that your power steering fluid is leaking? Probably from just an O-ring that's in the high pressure power steering return line there. So today we're going to get to that O-ring, chuck it in the bin, smash one of these in. Bob's your uncle. G'day guys, thanks for checking in. For today's video I'm going to be fixing the power steering fluid leak, not only because of the annoying leak that's happening on the pavement, bad for the environment as well, but also the fluid that is leaking onto the alternator will reduce the lifespan of the alternator and actually burn them out. And not only if the fluid is running low for the power steering, that's also going to put an extra pressure on the power steering pump. So to alleviate all that today, basically just an O-ring. This is about a $10 pack that I got from Super Cheap Auto. Should be an O-ring for life for any project coming up. But for now, what I'll be looking at doing is it's just a 17mm nut, and before we go and undo that to get access to the O-ring that's leaking, I'm going to siphon out all of the fluid that as much as I can from this reservoir. That way when I undo the line there won't be too much of a mess. But I'm also going to go one step further, guys. I'm also going to disconnect the return line, which is here, and also catch as much of the fluid there, and also from here when I disconnect this one, so there's less wastage and less spillage all over the alternator and all over the engine bay. There's not a lot that you need. I'm just going to use a few bottles to drain some fluid, and so that way I can use it again later on. Of course, the O-rings. I'm going to go through and use a bolt. Now this is a 14mm bolt, just a spare that I had, but it's going to work perfectly for blocking the return line once we disconnect that. Get some rags, some kind of drop sheets. An apple is optional. Great snack, great for health, not absolutely necessary for this job. Other than that, guys, yeah, let's get to it. Alrighty guys, so I'm just going to utilize this everyday type of syringe to kind of suction out as much of the fluid from the reservoir as possible. So you can undo your cap, pop your cap aside, and then you can start to actually syringe out as much of the old fluid as possible so there's less mess later on. Beautiful. Now, recently, a few weeks ago, I'd actually gone through and took the opportunity to actually flush the system, so my fluid today is still nice and fresh. However, if you're doing this for the first time and chasing that leak, you may as well take the opportunity and flush the remaining fluid in the actual power steering system. And I did make a video on that, and I'll see if I can link that for you guys, so that way you can utilize this opportunity to refresh all of the fluid so you can extend the lifespan of your power steering pump. So guys, I'll just return once I've siphoned out as much of the fluid from the reservoir as I can. Okay guys, so we managed to siphon out about 200ml out of the top of the reservoir, which is excellent. So that's going to mean there's going to be less mess when we're starting to disconnect some of the lines down here. Next, I'm going to be disconnecting the return line here, and to catch the residual fluid that's going to come out the bottom of the outlet here, I've devised a bit of a plan. Just an empty bottle, a rubber band, and a cable tie holding that rubber band down. And what that's going to do is it's going to let us work one-handed, since we're on our own today with no extra helping hands. That rubber band's going to be able to go around the actual cap there, and then we're able to just kind of hang our bottle on the end of our reservoir outlet like that. Last time I did this as I was flushing the system, it got a little annoying trying to balance this by hand on top of some rags and things underneath, so that will work quite well. So let's go through, grab I think it's a 7mm socket that I need for this upper area for this bolt to release this clamp, and then we can take the hose out. And what I'm going to do then is shove this bolt, this 14mm bolt, inside the actual return hose, and at the same time very quickly pop in our catch area here. So let's go through and grab our socket, and in my case it's a 7mm head here on the hose clamp. So let's go through and remove this. So initially I'm just going to loosen it enough that I can remove the actual clamp. And at this stage, before I go any further, I'm actually going to go through and pop in a couple rags and drop sheets underneath all of this, so that we don't make a mess all over the alternator and the ground as well. So we're just going to go through. I'll return guys once I've got everything nicely protected. Excellent. And with our drop sheet all the way underneath everything, we're able to go and loosen this clamp a little more. And now that we have the hose loose, we can go through, have our bolt handy. I might just leave that there. Have the bottle handy, hovering this one so we can swap immediately, like this. 1, 2, 3, there we go. And there's actually not that much fluid coming out of the hose here, perfect. But we're able to now leave our bottle here to catch the fluid that's coming out, and that's a perfect little strategy there, guys. We're not having to hold it there or wedge anything underneath, and that's just catching all the fluid that's coming out. Let's just have a bit of a look. Yeah, there's actually no fluid popping out of here. That's perfect, but it's a peace of mind. I'm just going to pop that bolt in anyway. Just a little bit of a close-up here, guys. With our little catch can, we've actually caught a couple 100 mil of fluid. That's working perfectly. Next, I've got a 16mm spanner ready to go, and another bottle to catch any fluid that's going to start coming out of the fitting there. With our second bottle wedged down here, ready to catch the fluid that's gonna come out. We can go and release and loosen the nut. Alrighty, let's get to it. We want to put our socket onto that nut, and then we can basically turn it towards the battery, which will be meaning that we're going anti-clockwise to loosen that nut. So there's not a lot of room to work with, but I managed to get this hose out the way there, and make sure that it's seated on there nice and tight. And let's give it a little bit of a spin. Now I haven't cracked this previously, guys, so it's probably been on there quite tight for some time. There we go. That's when you're like, have I broken a nut, or have I gone through and has it cracked open? I reckon that's one of the good ones that we've cracked it open. So guys, I managed to get this cable out the way, and that's going to give us a little bit more room. We want to turn this towards the battery like that, and that'll make the nut nice and loosey-goosey. Perfect. We should be able to do that by hand now. Let's have a check. Yes, perfect. So let's go and loosen this a little further and work quickly. I can see the oil coming out. Beautiful. Perfect, there we go. Now there's not a lot of fluid coming out, guys, but let's take our time, catch the fluid anyways. Perfect. Get this to focus. So guys, that's the O-ring that's come from the top of this little coupling at the top of the high pressure power steering line, and we can see that O-ring there, a little dirty, a little gunky. Probably just get a flat head. Try not to damage it on the way out, so then I can compare it for one of the good ones out of our packet here. Beautiful. Okay guys, so just with a really thin flathead screwdriver, now we're able to go through and lift out the dud O-ring. There we go. Nice. So yeah, we can see it's basically, if we can get this to focus, guys, tap on the screen here with oily fingers. There we go. So it's basically, compressed, and over time, it's no longer really rubbery, it's more of like a plastic now. But I guess, that's our leak. Let's go through, replace this O-ring, and whack it back on there, and basically reverse the system. Chuck the fluid back in. Bob's your uncle now. We've got the original O-ring on the left and a new one on the right. And I've had a look. This is probably the closest inner diameter, outer diameter there is. This one's been quite squashed over time. and we've probably lost that forever now. No worries, it was no good anyway, but let's go and pop this on. Hey guys, I'd just like to clarify that in my first attempt I used a O-ring like on the left, and that's actually the O-ring removed. I found it was still actually leaking slightly over the next few days. So what I've done today is I've removed that old O-ring that I opted for initially, and I've opted for the O-ring on the right because, as you can see, it's got a smaller inner diameter and it's going to fit on tighter, giving us a better seal. Slightly a noob move, as I hadn't done this job before. The new O-ring that I've opted for that has the smaller inner diameter, that has more tightly fit onto the high pressure line end there. And let's continue on like in the original video, but let's go and pop this on and yeah, let's go get to it. So just slide straight on without any issues, click straight over, and now we can reverse the process. I'm going to start off by removing the first catch can, the bottle. You know, caught a little bit, but still better than nothing, better than wasting it. We can pop that aside. And guys, this is what it looks like a little closer. I'll just start with this out. So that's our new O-ring seated on top here. And then we can go through and push this inside the fitting like that. And there we go. And then this one, you can basically slide up and start threading. You know, you want to make sure this is going in hand tight first. So I'll just get this started, guys, and I'll be right back. Thanks, guys. It was really fiddly. It took me about 5 or 6 attempts, but I was able to get that started by hand and you know, tighten it up as much as I could. Now I'm up to the stage that I can get my spanner on here and tighten him up. And just work slowly, you know, with these kinds of things, guys. You don't want to end up damaging anything, especially since this is a high pressure return line, or feed line I should say. And you don't want to be damaging this, otherwise your power steering is going to be out of action. Out of action, Derulo. And we just want to get this snug, you know, not too tight to risk damaging the threads, but not loose as well, because we don't want this to be leaking if it's under pressure and it isn't tight enough. So you just got to do this by feel. Yeah, I'm really happy with that, guys. Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. Now we can go and take our little contraption off. There we go. Grab the bottle without dropping him. Remove that out. That caught a lot of fluid, guys. That's epic. Nice. Let's pop that over there. Beautiful. Now what we can do, guys, is remove our bolt like that, and just work quickly. Sometimes you get a bit of fluid coming out. Just gonna poke that hose down, and then with this bolt out, in a few moments we can go and push this hose back on and clamp her down. Beautiful. Like that. Perfect. Let's go clamp her down, guys. And now with our socket in hand, we can tighten her up. So yeah, guys, a really simple fix. That O-ring was the first time I'd ever done that on a BA Falcon, and there wasn't a lot involved. At least we've now all got this video as reference. I found there wasn't actually any videos entailing this online, so I hope this helps others in the future. Perfect. So yeah, without much time and without much effort, we'll be able to, you know, replace that O-ring and save not only the alternator burning out, but also, you know, the oil wasting away, leaking away, making a mess on the ground as well. So guys, let's go pop all of our fluid back in. Okay guys, so now we're at the stage where we've plumbed up our return power steering line and the high pressure line here. I'd gone and previously made a bit of a makeshift funnel, just cut a bottle in half, so that way it helps me pop the new fluid in without making a mess and spilling and wasting the fluids, and it actually seats in there really nice and doesn't jiggle around. So guys, beautiful. Let's go through and pop our fluid in that we'd collected. This was from the original return line, so that can go straight back in. And now we can go and put our final bottle that we'd collected from the reservoir initially back in, and I might have had about 50 ml in this bottle initially, so I'm just gonna leave it about there and then go ahead and check the levels as we go. Already that looks pretty good. So I'm just going to start the car, see if there's any air in the system, let that air bleed, and then go from there. Let's go and remove all of our rags and go test run this baby. Just checking that there's any leaks on both lines, but no, we're all dry as, without a nice. Perfect. Let's go start up the car, guys, and again check for any leaks. It'll bleed out any air in the system as well, which is good. Let's get to it. And you might find, guys, when you first start your car, it got me by surprise when I first did my flush initially, that my power steering pump was whining, and that was pumping out all the air that was in the system. If you leave your cap off, it'll go through and basically correct itself, pump out all the air that's stuck in the system. Now at this point, guys, we're completely dry, which is perfect. So you might go for a bit of a drive, come back, again check that everything's still dry, nothing's leaking, and also we'll go check the power steering level as well and make sure that's not leaking either. Guys, there we have it, job done. Everything's nice and dry, there's no leaking. Perfect. You don't really need much, you just need that packet of O-rings from Super Cheap Auto. You have heaps of O-rings left over, only one needed for this job. You'll need your 16mm spanner to undo the nut here, and just catch your fluid and change that O-ring, pop those lines back in, pop your fluid back in, and off you go. As easy as that. I would take the opportunity to completely flush your system like I'd done 2 weeks ago. If you're doing this O-ring for the first time and your fluid is old and black, go through and flush it all. I'll link to that on the screen here. If I can't work out how to do that, I'll put it in the comments below, to my video of how to completely flush your power steering system. As always, guys, we flick something for luck before ending videos. So today we're going to go flick our power steering reservoir for luck. Beautiful. So guys, I hope this video helped. Please let me know in the comments if it does, and also let me know if there's anything I could have done to make this job easier, as I'm always looking to learn myself. So guys, cheers for watching, and looking forward to the next video with you guys. Epic. Since we're working on our own, it's able to actually let us go through, put that rubber band around this reservoir cap, and then this will actually give us some pressure. Oh, that was great. A rubber band, and I've cable tied that rubber band on. So what that's going to allow us to do is work one-handed. Once we disconnect, oh geez, that's not ideal. I'm going to use this little siphon to actually siphon out all of the bloody neighbors.